Oh, here we go.
Hello, Pauline. She's not quite connected yet. Hello, Pauline.
Hello.
Hello.
We're just starting the meeting, so welcome everybody. For visitors, my name is Brian White. I'm the president of Carlisle South Rotary Club, and it's good to see you online today. So I'll keep the public part of things brief. As usual, there's lots of changes in the world. We've just got back from Carlisle. Carlisle is starting to pick up a little bit now. So there's people there, but shop-wise, it's still something of a ghost town. You're walking past all these shops with the barriers and things down. But there are changes afoot. And I think after next week, after the 15th, it's going to change quite considerably. Few little notices Rotary-wise. And Mike and I were both in district executive last night. And as he said, it was a really interesting meeting. I think he said it with a certain amount of tongue-in-cheek as he said it, though. We did have a nice, almost argument between the district governor and the treasurer about how the minute of meetings from last time. That was the highlight of the night, really, wasn't it, Mike? Yeah.
Yeah.
We are in the middle. I don't know if we're going to, if you're going to send this around all the members, Paulie, if you send that to everybody. But
smoke salmon again.
Our district assembly, here's John. Our district assembly obviously is not a physical one anymore, but district have got a webinar license for Zoom, which should allow lots of people on, and there are 3 sessions which they are encouraging us to attend. If you haven't seen the email which went out, I'll make sure I send it out again, but you have to pre-register. Very, very simple. Just click on the link. It'll take you on, put your name and your club in, and that you're registered onto it. And that will send you a Zoom link through, and you just log on like this. But there are 3 sessions. The first one, we've got the RI president coming in, Holger Nack, or however it's pronounced, who's going to be on the first night, which is the 16th of June. 17th will be Phil Dyer, who's the RI public image representative, but also the district sport and youth competitions are going to be discussed then. And on the 18th, the Rotary Magazine editor, Dave King, on life after COVID-19. And you should have all had a paper copy of the Rotary Magazine through. Mm. If you have and you don't use it, can we try and prop them into somewhere public for the outside world to see what we do? Lots in the current magazine about what's been going on Rotary-wise. And I see there was a thing about Belinda Altenstall from BBC Cumbria, who's Carlisle Castle Club. She got a write up in there. Pauline, anything from you from the club secretary?
The only thing that's outstanding is that I haven't got the email in front of me, but someone within district wants information, even if it's a nil return, as to what activities we've engaged in with regard to,
That was Richard Attenborough, and I've sent it off.
Right, you've sent it off. Right.
It's been returned, yeah. Apart from that, just for your information, I was in touch with Gavin from the Shepherd's Inn on Friday. Had a really interesting chat with him about where we are and what we're doing. And I've just seen who's coming in. Hello, Carol.
Hello,
sorry.
yeah. Hello, John Bruin.
Hello, John. Yeah, I had a really good chat with Gavin from the Shepherd's Inn. At the moment, they've decided they did take away food when the lockdown started, but because there's a lot of small businesses trying to struggle with the take away food, getting something on that to get some cash coming in, because they've had the Pioneer shop open the whole time, they've decided not to compete with the small traders. They're just going to keep Pioneer going, which I thought was a really good thing of them. Yeah. They're not sure how it's going to be reopening because the goalposts are changing all the time. So I talked to him and basically said that we weren't going to put pressure onto them. We'll wait for them to get in touch with us as to how they're going to actually sort us out. They're well aware that some of our members may be reluctant to come out because of an anxiety towards the coming out of the lockdown. So they're very, very willing to work with us in whatever we need and however it goes on that. They're trying to make sure that what they do is cost effective for them, obviously, though. They have had a meeting booked from the City Council, for instance, And the demand from the city council was that they had to have a member of staff on the toilets the whole time. The Shepherd's Inn had to have a member of staff on the toilets the whole time. Allow one person at the time, then the toilets had to be cleaned before the next person could go in.
Oh.
To which they said, no chance. You know, for one thing, when you come out the toilet, you should be washing your hands anyway. But, you know, it's that sort of level of thing. So at the moment, we don't know when they're going to reopen properly. They don't know properly on that, but they'll be pleased to see us back. And I've said we're not going to put pressure either way on. I don't know what's happened with Carlisle, Pauline, after I spoke last week.
There's no information as to what's happening with the Shepherds at all. And of course, there'll be a new president in place come July. So whether they will have small groups of 6 meeting at somebody's house, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's still too early to make any decisions or whatever we do, but at least we've got the communication going. Is there anything else from anyone else, meeting-wise, that we would like to bring up?
The wishing well cheque has been presented.
Oh, right.
Oh, magic, yeah.
Delivery won't be long, brothers, maybe, hopefully.
Well, the guy, Simon, whatever his name is, well, we had to cancel the first cheque,
Yeah.
which cost the club £12.50.
Oh.
And because apparently they'd lost the cheque, we sent it to the hotel where they have the meeting. The hotel said, we've never had it, didn't see it, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, 2 days later, he come back saying, oh, the hotel's found the cheque now. In the meantime, he'd sent an email to me and Andrew. I think Andrew got it as well. And he said, oh, cancel the cheque immediately, you know, blah, 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 and all the rest of it. So I goes rushing to the bank, stands in a queue for an hour, trying to get in. Eventually gets there. You know, she wanted my grandmother's name and blah, 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 and who are you, all the rest of it. Anyway, charged us £12.50. And I then contacted Simon. He said, oh, we found the cheque. Don't cancel it. Sorry, Simon, we've cancelled it. Well, you know. Anyway, I sent him another cheque in the post, and he eventually got it. And they've cashed it. And I've looked in the bank this morning, and it has been cashed. So,
marvellous.
So he's going to contact Andrew now about.
I haven't heard anything.
You've not heard anything? Oh well.
So then the next thing is just waiting, I presume, and then making sure we can try and get some inroad into Houghton Hall.
Well,
yeah.
That's the thing. We want to get it in now as soon as we can,
And fit it
because
out.
that's going to be the only income we're going to get this year. I'll tell you.
And now we're
Do
going
we have anywhere to store it?
fit it out with the card reader.
Yeah, I've been looking into a few things on the card reader, but I need to put more time into it. I must admit, I haven't had a chance to pursue that any more than just trying the square. But
the other thing is, after all the hoo-ha about the district finance committee being sacked, they've now reinstated us.
Oh, dear.
Oh, it was a mistake. Oh, it was an misunderstanding.
Oh.
Well, it won't be a misunderstanding when I get back to the first meeting. I'll tell you something. This has been a 2-year misunderstanding, right? And I shall want to have a few answers.
Come to that meeting with you, John.
Eh?
I'll come to that meeting with you, John.
Yeah. I'll tell
Fly
you
on the wall.
something, there'll be 1 or 2 upset people.
Yeah.
And I don't mind upsetting people, as you know.
Brian,
hello.
In your treasury.
did I misunderstand last night or whatever that the committees are now teams?
Oh yes, we don't have committees anymore. We have teams.
Yeah, you're on the finance team.
Yes.
I couldn't care a shit what I am. there'll be some trouble. Brian, if you're back in with your mates down in Lancaster, just tell them that there's a guy here who's pretty upset about the whole thing.
Well, actually, there was talk about somebody in a northern club last night. I don't know if they're referring to you.
Yeah, I assumed it was John.
I assumed it was John as well. Moving on. Thank you very much for that, John. That's appreciated.
Tim wants a word.
Tim.
Tell me, have they appointed a new treasurer yet?
Yes, Larry Branyan.
Yeah. Yes.
Treasurer?
Yes.
Yeah.
Larry Branyan?
Yeah.
Branyan.
I think it was a push rather than volunteered.
Gracious me.
Oh, there's a job for the Royal Navy.
Apparently, he can't wait to work with us because he thinks we're a good team.
He'll need you.
Right.
Moving on. Has anybody done any visits to any other clubs in any way, shape, or form?
Oh, yes, I have. Brampton,
Yes.
Brampton Longtown. Last Wednesday, it was a speaker about the North Air ambulance. Not the lady that spoke to us when you did yours, Brian. Yeah, it was very good. Very good meeting.
Oh, smash out. How many are they getting online?
There was probably about 12, I think, last Wednesday.
Oh, that's not bad. That's not bad at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I did terribly at the Warwick Bridge community confinement quiz, as Matt will tell you.
So I run that quiz, and Andrew's quite often the winner, should I say, of the wooden spoon.
Right. In that case, we have a couple of visitors online with us today, which I'm really, really pleased to say. I'm just going to have to keep on shuffling my screen. I'm on an iPad and it only has 9 on at the time. We have Andrew Sheckle and our speaker, Matt Starmer. And Tony, I think if I hand over to you to do some introductions of our guests, if you would.
I will do. Firstly, introduce Andrew. Andrew is the CEO of the Heathlands project, which is linked to what Matt Starmer was going to say, and with all the other things that are going on at Heathlands at the present time, which has stayed open right throughout the virus period. We've been having service users in Monday to Friday, not all of them, coping with the numbers that do turn up, and Andrew working from home with other staff working from home, plus a few on site, has kept the thing rolling very well. And public, I will say thank you very much to the Heathlands team for what they're doing to keep us afloat. I won't go into all the financial details, but I feel a little bit happier now than I did about a week ago, so I'll say no more. So welcome to Andrew, and thank you for joining us. And I introduced Matt Starmer, our speaker today. Now, I met Matt at one of the veterans' lunches at Carlisle Castle way back February time, I think it was, or January, one of them there. And I was pushing to get veterans and ex-servicemen involved in something at Heathlands. I wasn't sure what, but as director of the board at Heathlands, the Laurie Brewis Trust as it is, I was keen that with all the land we had to spare that wasn't being used, we could probably do something with that land. Matt stood up and said, "This sounds ideal for me. I've got something in mind." And that was the start of the story. All I know about Matt is that he is ex-army. He served amongst other organisations with the army police, the military police, has done about 30 years and is still a reservist working in various capacities. And in the last few weeks, he has been part of a team doing roadside or car park testing for the virus. So he's been a busy person, but he's now out of lockdown and is back at work. And this is his second day back at work with the charity that he works for. So, ladies and gentlemen, can I introduce Matt Starmer, please? Thank you. Welcome.
Thanks, everybody. Brian, at this point, I'm going to try and share my screen so that I can continue with my with what Tony was talking about there, my collaboration with Heathlands, and a little bit more about who I am and what we're doing. So I'm going to attempt to share screen. Just bear with me a moment, folks.
Feeling.
And okay, here we go. So can everybody now see the slide, the master slide, which is Step Together, Transforming Lives, my name, Volunteer Project Manager. Can everybody see?
That's spot on, Matt. Yes, it's there.
Excellent. So looks like it's working. So that's me, and that is my my day job, if you like. Step Together, volunteering. I'm Volunteer Project Manager for the north of England. Pretty large catchment area that spreads from Liverpool all the way up to Cumbria, across to Tyne and Wear and Gateshead, all the way back down to Yorkshire, and then across country. So it's a catchment area of around about 42,000 square kilometres. And I'm one man trying to do a job of probably what should be many. So who are we? Step Together themselves, we are a small national charity. We have 3 focus groups. One of them is ex-offenders. One of them is vulnerable youth groups. And the focus group that I work with is veterans and wounded, injured and sick serving personnel. Our beliefs as a charity, we believe that everyone has a potential within themselves to affect positive change, both for themselves and to contribute positively to society. We believe that community volunteering can be a catalyst for positive and permanent life change, and that communities are stronger and more resilient when they are inclusive. So Heathlands, so as Tony mentioned, my introduction to Heathlands was through himself and the veterans, one of the veterans lunch clubs. And as a result, I was able to visit Heathlands, firstly, with a view to placing one of my veterans directly into Heathlands, but then I found out about the land. And as it says there, and as I'm sure some of the other speakers and guests will be able to elaborate on, Heathlands is a registered charity providing activities for people with a varied range of disabilities and learning support needs. I won't dwell too long on that slide, but what was quite clear from the outset when I met Tony and in turn Clive is that the values of the Heathlands project were very, very similar to that of Step Together and that of the work that we do with volunteers, and in particular in my work strand with veterans. So the offer, the board, as Tony mentioned, have offered space for Blind Veterans UK to develop and build a sensory garden in an area close to the entrance. And that will be the focus of this presentation, the actual Blind Veterans UK project. In addition, there is space available to be developed for a woodland memorial walk and an allotment space for a Veterans Veg type project. There are other projects ongoing, and indoor space has also been made available outside of normal operating hours for veterans groups or workshops to meet. So lots going on and kindly been offered by Heathlands through Tony that we're looking to develop over the coming months. So the sensory garden itself then, and as I say, that's what I'll focus on in this presentation today. The plan is that it will be designed by veterans, built by veterans, and used both by veterans and their families, the local community, and service users of Heathlands. So it's very, very collaborative, and it's planned to benefit a lot of different groups and communities. A little bit of military speak on this one. So there are lots of intended outcomes. First order effect is obviously the opportunity for a range of beneficiaries to get involved. And this would include former service personnel with complex needs, possibly those who are still serving and recovering from injury or illness, and obviously veterans groups. And I believe it is a unique opportunity in assisting in the recovery of both veterans who are struggling and personnel who are still serving. Second order effect, obviously, it will create a space for Blind Veterans UK to take ownership and provide real benefit for their beneficiaries and families alike. It will include continued maintenance and have a lasting positive effect. Third order effect, it is a space that will be enjoyed by Heathland service users and their families, and that could include an educational element. As I said, the projects are ongoing and were in their infancy prior to COVID-19 lockdown, but I'm fairly passionate about keeping it alive and keeping the interest going for the eventuality where we can get some more hands-on approach to the projects themselves. And then the additional legacy effect is that there is a huge Cumbrian emphasis on mental health and the well-being of ex-service personnel and veterans. And that will be satisfied at all stages of the project. And I think that's even more pertinent at the moment. We've just had Mental Health Awareness Week. It's clear that as a result of COVID-19 and the restrictions on people, that mental health will be an issue going forward when we come out of lockdown. So I think this offers a real opportunity to help improve both mental and physical well-being of a large number of people. So looking at the space that's available, so the pictures that you see on your screen now are a plot of land that is near to the entrance of the Heathlands project, and this is the area that's been identified for the actual sensory garden. It's very unkempt, as you can see at the moment, and it suffers from poor drainage. So there'll be quite a lot of groundwork that will need doing to make it good, first of all, and potentially we would need to install some sort of water feature that would assist drainage and also promote wildlife to make it more of a sensory experience for those blind veterans and for service users at Heathland. Next slide is a concept, and this is a creative idea that's been given to me courtesy of Peter Osborne, who is himself Blind Veterans UK. And as you can see, it will be more than just a garden space. It will be a real experience, lots of touch and feel sort of thing. The idea would be to create water features, to create noise sensories, and things like that. Bear in mind, this is just a creative idea at the moment. The actual design of the garden itself will be subject to planning permissions and all that sort of thing.
Not sure about the donkey.
Not sure about the donkey, no, but certainly we could feature some fish or similar. So obviously it's not something that's going to come free of cost, so we do need to consider some funding options. So one of the options that was presented to me via Peter Osborne was funding bricks, and there's a link to a website there called engravedbricks.co.uk. This is where people buy a brick for an eventual wall that could be built within the garden or any of the other spaces that have been made available around Heathlands itself. Another one that I discussed with Tony recently was a sponsor a tree scheme, and that would also suit planting along the intended Memorial Wildlife Walk, which is one of the other projects that we're in collaboration with at the moment. We'll also be looking at local sponsorship, fundraising or donations from organisations. Charitable offers of service provision, and that's quite important with things like groundworks and supply of plant, machinery, etc. So the bigger or the more we can reach out to some of the local companies or organisations for those offers, charitable offers of service provision, the better we stand in actually getting this off the ground and to fruition. And then there's obviously lots of various grant options that we're looking at. I sent one out today to a working group. Tony, I'm not sure if you've seen it yet, but it is a COVID-19 single round grant of £10,000 from the Covenant funding group. We'll be looking at these as we go forward as well. So there's some of the funding options available. It's also important that we form collaborative partnerships, and indeed we have already formed a lot of those. So obviously Tony there from the Loris Brewers Trust, who introduced me, and the Heathlands project itself. So as it says there, my part of this project is to provide a veterans volunteer workforce and potentially project manage some of the projects that are ongoing at Heathlands. There's a link there to our website. I'll share this presentation with Brian after this meeting. Walking with the Wounded, Op Regen. So these are really important players actually, and it's a big collaboration with a much larger organisation. So I'll just talk a little bit about Canada Street, which is the veterans village that was built by DIY SOS. Hands up if you remember that project. I can only see 2 or 3 of you on the screen there, Tony. Thank you very much for that. But so essentially a veterans village was built in Manchester for recovering servicemen, and it was built by DIY SOS, the big build. Now those patrons of that village now want to pay something back, and through Scott Briggs, my point of contact with Walking with the Wounded, they have been involved in a project called Op Regen. Regen looks to regenerate areas in need for the benefit of local communities. So to me, it was a perfect matchup, which is why I've collaborated with Walking with the Wounded, and Scott is ready and willing to bring up part of that workforce to help with this project up at Heathlands. And there's a link there to Walking with the Wounded and the project Op Regen. Again, I'll share this with you following this meeting. We've also got the Covenant Group on board, and post this, I'll be speaking with Tony about that funding bid possibly to the Covenant Group and getting Elizabeth's sign-off. British Legion are involved through Danielle Warwick. Duke of Lancashire Association through David Allardyce, and then any members of the Carlisle Veterans Lunch Club who wish to have an active part in the projects that are ongoing at Heathlands are also our collaborative partners. I'm open to any questions. I will leave you my contact details, but in a nutshell, that is part of what we are hoping to be a much larger ongoing project. My position within my organisation is potentially secure for another couple of years as a direct result of this project. So I'm hoping to be able to see it through to fruition and then maintenance thereafter. That is it from me. I will now try and stop sharing my screen so that I can see you all, and I'll be open for questions.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Matt. Do we have any questions? Any questions for Matt?
And that includes Andrew with his CEO hat on.
Nothing that I would really want. I mean, I really welcome the idea of taking this forward, because I mean, I do think with my other hats on, there are a lot of organizations within Carlisle who are working on the mental health and well-being, who are virtually ready and willing to join these sort of networks. But what they haven't got is the central coordination from anywhere to do that. So I think, although this can be seen just as a standalone project, the way I could see it was developing as very much a hub for mental health and well-being. But also, I don't know if you've noticed, but the government have now decided that exercise is no longer a fun thing to do. It is a necessity of health. And so therefore, there are a lot of people like me who would no more be on an exercise or treadmill than fly, but I'm more than happy to go and dig in the garden. So I think that this project fits very neatly into the overall agenda that the government has from reaching out to those hard to reach communities, which include, unfortunately, a large number of ex-vets.
Oh, it certainly does. We're aware of that. All across North and West Cumbria, there are ex-Afghanistan and Iraq army veterans who I think would welcome this. It's a question of just getting them on board and getting them transported, which is a bit of an issue at the moment. But once we are allowed to move forward, then we can sort this out. I mean, I know Peter Osborne over from Whitehaven, I think his wife or somebody always drives him, but he's got severe sight problems. But by heck, is he keen to get this done? And I look forward to helping you guys out as best I can. I'm pretty good with the garden fork and a shovel.
Your own garden looks fantastic from what I've seen of it, Tony.
I mean, from my point of view, it goes back further than just the sort of Afghanistan side. And it's the fact is that a lot of these things, we see the big, high impact sort of thing. But you know, from my own personal thing, I still have, in a very minor way, it's a minor sort of thing, but it does affect you. You know, I was bagging and tagging bodies at Lockerbie, and those are still things that I still have dreams about. I still can't picture what I was doing, and that's 30 odd years ago. You know, 33 years ago, 32 years ago. And, you know, the idea of things like this, which can actually bring people together at any stage of the problems that they've had, is great. I think the hard thing on this is actually going to be getting the word out there to enough people to make it worthwhile and to let them know it is available for them.
We talked. You spoke, Andrew, earlier about a hub. One of the other projects which we were keen to launch, it's obviously been curtailed due to COVID-19, was the development of a temporary pop-up hub for all of the third sector services to get together within Carlisle, and that was going to be in the week leading up to Armed Forces Day. Unfortunately, as I say, it was curtailed. So I've just emailed out to that working group as well that I'm now back at work. I'm back at work post furlough because I'm keen to keep that group together. And I think you're right that it could extend to much further than just the physical projects, but could be a hub for veterans to drop in and also to outreach to veterans through the various third sector services that are out there.
Matt, I think I have I have to email you through a different means. But in actual fact, I'm working with another organisation called ICANN, who are working with a local developer to develop exactly that in Carlisle, just beside Sainsbury's.
Okay, then
I'll give you some networking
to link up. Yeah.
Do we have any more questions from anybody else?
Yeah, can you give any indication of any rough costings at the moment?
No, obviously, Tim, with everything being on hold, it's really difficult to get together and it's really difficult to get people in to quote. We'd like a lot of it to be self-funded manual labour, but there is clearly going to be costs for raising the ground and things like that. So, you know, those things need to be discussed going forward, and hence looking at different funding streams, funding bids.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to run away with this at all at the moment, but this will appeal to Tony, I know.
Yes.
Rotary has its own charitable funds internationally, but we can tap those for local district grants, as we call them. And it may be that once you've firmed up the project and costings, that we could apply for something. It may not be very much, but it may be something else.
Like Tesco say, Tim, every little helps.
Yeah.
One of the first steps, I think, and not for this meeting, Matt, is we're going to have to clarify the actual plan for the sensory garden.
Yes.
And whether it needs planning permission, because you've mentioned that, and the answer is I don't know, and I don't think you know. whether planning permission is going to be a requirement for this, and we will need to sort of put some drawings together, a positive, or at least query, do sensory gardens.
At least get a tender out. Yeah, absolutely.
Do sensory gardens in planning permission. That's one of the early steps in all this.
Yes.
I think one of the
Matt, just to remind you both that in actual fact we're going to have quite a lot of heavy plant on site in the next few months.
Yes.
So if you could, even if we could have a rough idea of removing topsoil or whatever, it would be quite handy to have.
Maybe
the plant will be there.
Very good. Yeah.
Maybe the three of us need to have another meeting very soon.
Yeah.
I'd appreciate that, Tony and Andrew. Obviously,
set something up.
It would be really valuable.
Yeah.
I think a good person to contact actually about the planning permission would probably be Liz Mallinson, who's on your covenant.
Exactly.
Because she's in the right place for it.
Yeah, correct. Thank you, Brian.
I mean, from my point of view, if you don't mind, Matt, I'm going to contact you away from this meeting. There's a few things
Please
that you brought up which I could maybe be useful for us to talk. So I'll do that afterwards and drop you an email.
I'll share that presentation to you now, Brian. I'll perhaps let you gentlemen and ladies get on with the rest of your meeting. But it's been an honour to be able to talk to you, and I hope it's inspired you as people and as an organisation to a project that I'm quite passionate about. And hopefully, there might be assistance going forward.
Well, thank you very much, Matt. I really do appreciate your time coming in, and Andrew for coming in and
no, thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks, Andrew. I hope Tony will link us up and we can speak soon.
Yeah, well, I've got your email on I'm sure I've got your email somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Andrew.
Okay.
I've got it. There's no problem.
Yeah.
What I'll do, I'll ask Tony if you would do a reply for us, please, Tony.
Yeah. Thank you, Matt, for being with us today. I have to say I had some ideas, wasn't sure where it was going to go, and just by good fortune, I said the right things at the right time in the right place with you there. And we've been very lucky in getting some plans together, albeit screwed up by COVID-19 at the moment.
Yeah.
But as soon as lockdown is out of the way, if we've got a positive plan that this is what we want to do and people can have easy access to the site to work together, then I would like to see this sort of underway, in, if we could, as early as the autumn, but certainly working hard on this during 2021. And I also would like to say on behalf of the incoming president of this club, Tim, that one way and another over the next 12 months in his reign of terror from July the 1st, maybe we can put together some form of grant application to see if the Rotary Foundation, through a local community grant, can give us a few bob or two to help the project along. And
that's excellent.
So thank you very much for being with us today. I'm from it with many hats on, be it with Heathlands, the Laurie Bruce Trust and Rotary and ex-Air Force and British Legion. I look forward to working with you and getting something positive underway over the next few months. Thank you very much indeed.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Tony. Thank you very much, everybody else. Thank you, Brian.
Thanks now. Bye now.
Show their appreciation.
Enjoy the rest of your meeting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Before we do go, though, Matt, is this an English-only site or is this a UK project?
Sorry, it's
UK.
It's
the reason I'm asking.
UK.
The reason I'm asking, Tim's mentioned about grants, but some of the grants that we do, because Rotary Foundation is a worldwide charity. Yeah. It's Rotary's own charity, but a lot of it's to do with international, and under them, Scotland is a different country internationally.
Right. Yeah.
And it may be worth talking to our friends at Annan or something, tying up on something. I don't know what you know about it better than I do, Tim and Tony.
Okay, I'm glad you mentioned it actually, because one project I've recently learnt about is the Dumfries Veterans Garden. So there's already a model in place that we can have a look at over the border. And if we're looking over the border, then like you say, Brian, look at funding streams from over the border, because it is a community project, and it no doubt will involve some of our veterans that do live across the border because of its proximity. So
Yeah,
I think it's a discussion for later, but it could be
Absolutely.
an interesting way to do that. Gentlemen,
Great
thank you
stuff.
very much for that talk.
Thank you. Thank you,
I'm going
folks.
to bring this meeting to an end. The ones who are on the club council have arranged, if you could just stay on after we close it properly, as I say, it'll be very quick. So that'll be Andrew, Mike, Tim, Pauline and John, if you would. In fact, to tell you the truth, what else have we got on here? If you want to be in with the conversation, I'm actually happy for the other two people on there, rather than you going out for Tony and Carol to stay if you want to. I'm open for that. But I'll bring the general meeting to an end and say thank you to our visitors once again and wish everybody Rotary, peace,
Rotary, fellowship, and
fellowship.
peace.
Oh, this lockdown is getting to me. Rotary, fellowship, and peace the world over. Thank you very much. Good afternoon,
Thanks,
everyone.
folks.
Bye now.
Thanks, Al.
Bye.